Welcome to the deep dive.
Today, we're going to be taking a deep dive into the world of AI.
Specifically, how it's being used in business analysis. One of the first things these notes highlight is the idea of AI being used for good.
They use the term beneficial AI, which really caught my eye.
It makes sense though, right?
We want to ensure that these powerful tools are being used to help people.
Not harm them.
Absolutely.
It's about making sure that AI systems are developed and used in a way that aligns with human values and goals.
Think of it like building a house.
You wouldn't just start throwing bricks together without a blueprint, would you?
Right.
The same goes for AI.
We need a solid foundation of principles and guidelines to ensure that it's being used responsibly and ethically.
I like that analogy.
So it's not just about the technical aspects of AI, but also the human side of the equation.
And speaking of the human side,
These notes really emphasize the role of the business analyst as a key player in all of this.
right.
The business analyst is often the bridge between the technical teams developing the AI.
And the business stakeholders who will be using it.
They have this unique ability to see the big picture.
Understanding both the capabilities of AI and the potential impact it can have on people and organizations.
It sounds like a pretty crucial role.
Especially as AI becomes more and more integrated into how businesses operate.
But where do we even begin?
What are some practical things that business analysts can do to ensure that AI is being used for good in their organizations?
Well, the first step is understanding the core principles of what makes AI beneficial.
Can you give me some concrete examples of what these characteristics look like in practice?
Yeah.
Let's take fairness as an example.
Imagine you're working on an AI system that's being used to evaluate job applicants.
Okay.
You want to make sure that the system isn't unfairly discriminating against certain groups of people.
Like those from a particular background or gender.
Right.
We've all heard those stories about AI systems perpetuating existing biases.
Which is obviously something we want to avoid.
So how do we actually ensure fairness in an AI system?
Do we just tell it to be fair?
It's a bit more complicated than that.
One important aspect is the data that's being used to train the AI.
If the data itself is biased.
The AI system is likely to learn and replicate those biases.
That makes sense.
So garbage in, garbage out, as they say.
But how can a business analyst influence the data that's being used to train an AI system?
It seems like that's more in the realm of the data scientist.
You're right that data scientists play a crucial role.
But the business analyst can be a powerful advocate for using high-quality representative data.
They can ask tough questions about where the data is coming from
How it was collected.
and whether it's truly reflective of the population the AI system will be used on.
So it's about being a data detective.
Digging into the source and making sure it's a solid foundation for the AI system.
What about the other characteristics like unbiasedness and transparency?
How can we ensure that AI systems are making decisions in a way that's understandable and accountable?
One approach is to use what's called explainable AI.
Which is a way of designing AI systems so that their decisions can be understood by humans,
It's like having a window into the black box of AI.
allowing us to see how it's arriving at its conclusions.
That sounds pretty crucial.
Especially if we're talking about AI systems being used in sensitive areas like healthcare or finance.
We need to be able to understand the reasoning behind the decisions they're making. And this is another area where business analysts can play a key role.
They can advocate for the use of explainable AI techniques
Push for clear documentation of how the AI system works.
and help translate those technical explanations into language that business stakeholders can understand.
So it's about being a translator.
A bridge between the technical world of AI and the real-world impact it's having on people and businesses.
I'm starting to see how the business analyst's role is evolving in this age of AI.
It's an exciting time to be a business analyst.
The skills they bring to the table are more valuable than ever in ensuring that AI is being used for good.
This has been a great overview of the high-level principles of beneficial AI.
But I'm curious to dive into the nitty-gritty of how these principles are actually put into practice.
That's a great segue.
The study notes provide a practical framework for navigating what they call data dilemmas.
Which are those tricky situations where you have to balance the benefits of using data with the potential risks?
Okay, let's unpack this.
What are some of the key considerations when it comes to using data responsibly in the context of AI?
The study notes lay out a really helpful framework.
Breaking it down into 5 key areas:
Data collection,
data quality,
data storage,
data security,
and data usage.
Okay, so it's a comprehensive look at the entire data lifecycle.
Let's start with data collection.
What are some of the key considerations here?
One of the most important principles is data minimization.
It's the idea that we should only collect the data that is absolutely necessary.
For the AI system to function,
The less data we collect.
the less risk there is of misuse or breaches.
That makes a lot of sense.
It's like being mindful of your digital footprint.
The less you share.
The less there is to potentially expose.
Exactly.
And it's not just about minimizing the amount of data we collect.
But also being transparent about how we're collecting it,
People should know what data is being collected
how it will be used.
and who will have access to it.
So it's about informed consent.
Making sure people understand what they're agreeing to.
What about data quality?
I imagine that's crucial when it comes to AI.
Since the system is only as good as the data it's trained on,
You're absolutely right.
data quality is paramount.
We need to ensure that the data we use to train AI models is accurate
Up to date.
and representative of the population it's meant to serve.
Can you give an example of what that might look like in a real-world scenario?
Sure.
Let's say you're working on an AI system that's being used to personalize product recommendations.
For an online retailer,
Okay.
you want to make sure that the data you're using to train the AI
Reflects the diversity of your customer base,
in terms of demographics
purchasing habits.
and preferences.
Otherwise, you might end up with an AI system that's making recommendations based on a very narrow slice of your customer base.
Which could lead to some pretty skewed results.
Exactly.
And that's why data quality is so important.
It's about ensuring that the AI system is being trained on a data set that is both comprehensive and accurate.
So it can make informed decisions that benefit all users.
Okay, so we've talked about data collection and data quality.
What about data storage?
I imagine security is a huge concern here.
It absolutely is.
Data storage is all about protecting the data we collect.
From unauthorized access, disruption,
Or destruction.
it's a multifaceted challenge that requires a layered approach to security,
So it's not just about having strong passwords.
but a whole system of safeguards in place.
Right.
It's about having robust security protocols
That encompass everything from physical security of the servers where the data is stored
to encryption of the data itself.
to access controls that limit who can view or modify the data.
And it's an ongoing process, right?
The security landscape is constantly evolving.
So we need to be vigilant about staying ahead of the curve.
Exactly.
It's not a set it and forget it situation.
Data security requires ongoing attention and adaptation.
To ensure that the data is protected at all times.
Okay, so we've covered data collection and data storage.
Now let's talk about data usage.
This seems like where things can get really tricky.
As there are so many potential applications for AI,
And not all of them are necessarily beneficial.
you're right.
Data usage is where we really start to grapple with the ethical implications of AI.
It's about ensuring that the data is being used in a way that aligns with human values
Respects privacy.
and promotes fairness.
Can you give me some specific examples of how these principles might play out in the context of data usage?
Sure.
One important concept is purpose limitation.
This means that data should only be used for the specific purpose for which it was collected.
So if I provide my email address to an online retailer to receive order updates.
They shouldn't be using that email address to send me marketing emails without my explicit consent.
Exactly.
That's a clear example of purpose limitation.
The data was collected for one purpose.
Order updates.
And should not be used for another purpose.
Marketing.
Without explicit consent.
That makes sense.
What about the idea of anonymization?
I've heard a lot about that in the context of data privacy.
Anonymization is a technique used to protect people's privacy.
By removing personally identifiable information from data.
It's a powerful tool.
But it's not a silver bullet.
Why not?
Well, sometimes it's difficult to fully anonymize data.
Without compromising its usefulness for the AI system.
And even when data is anonymized,
There's always the risk of re-identification.
especially as new technologies and techniques emerge.
So it's a complex issue with no easy answers,
It sounds like we need to be very thoughtful about how we use data.
even when we're trying to do so responsibly.
Exactly.
Data usage is an area where ongoing dialogue and collaboration are essential.
Business analysts,
Data scientists
legal experts,
and ethicists all need to work together to ensure that data is being used in a way that benefits both individuals and society as a whole. How can a business analyst actually put these principles into practice in their day-to-day work?
One powerful tool is the ethical user story.
It's a way of integrating ethical considerations directly into the language of software development.
I remember you mentioning this earlier.
It's like taking those abstract principles and translating them into concrete actions.
Can you give me an example of what an ethical user story might look like?
Sure.
Imagine you're working on an AI-powered chatbot that's being used for customer service.
Okay.
A typical user story might be.
As a customer, I want to be able to quickly get answers to my questions so I can resolve my issue efficiently.
Okay, that's a pretty standard user story.
How would we turn that into an ethical user story?
We can modify it to say,
As a customer, I want to be able to quickly get accurate and unbiased answers to my questions in a way that respects my privacy and maintains confidentiality so I can resolve my issue efficiently and feel confident that my information is being handled responsibly.
I see.
So we're not just focusing on the functionality of the chatbot.
But also on how it handles data and interacts with users in an ethical way.
Exactly.
And by integrating these ethical considerations into the user stories.
We're baking them into the very DNA of the AI system from the outset.
That's brilliant.
It's a proactive approach that can help prevent ethical issues from arising later down the line.
Right.
It's about shifting from a reactive mindset
Where we're trying to fix problems after they occur.
to a proactive mindset.
Where we're anticipating potential issues and designing systems that are ethical by design.
I love that.
Ethical by design.
It's like a blueprint for responsible AI development
Okay, so we've talked about the importance of data ethics.
and how business analysts can use tools like ethical user stories to put those principles into practice.
But it's not just about the data itself.
Right. They're also the people involved in the AI development process.
And the potential impact that AI systems can have on individuals and society as a whole.
You're absolutely right.
The human element is crucial.
And that's where stakeholder management comes into play.
Okay, let's dive into that.
Who are the key stakeholders when it comes to AI development?
And how can a business analyst effectively manage those relationships?
Well, when we talk about stakeholders in AI development, it's a pretty diverse group.
Internally, you've got management,
IT team.
legal and compliance departments.
Oh.
Even marketing and sales might have a stake in how AI is being used.
And then externally, you have customers,
Rangers.
regulators, the list goes on.
Wow, that's a lot of people to keep happy.
It sounds like a business analyst needs to be a master diplomat.
To navigate all those different perspectives and interests.
Diplomacy is definitely a key skill.
But it's more than just keeping people happy.
It's about understanding each stakeholder's needs and concerns.
And finding ways to align those with the overall goals of the AI project.
So it's not about trying to please everyone all the time,
But rather about finding common ground.
and building consensus around a shared vision for how AI can be used responsibly and effectively.
Exact.
And that requires clear communication
Active listening.
and a willingness to compromise.
What are some practical strategies that business analysts can use to effectively engage with stakeholders throughout the AI development process?
Well, one approach is to create a stakeholder map.
This is a visual representation of all the key stakeholders
That's true.
and their level of influence on the project.
So it's like a cheat sheet for understanding the complex web of relationships and power dynamics at play.
Exactly.
A stakeholder map can help you identify potential roadblocks
Anticipate concerns.
and tailor your communication strategy to each stakeholder group.
That's a great idea.
I can see how that would be a valuable tool for any business analyst working on an AI project.
What about those situations where there are disagreements or concerns about the ethical implications of the AI system?
How should a business analyst handle those conversations?
First and foremost, it's about creating a safe space for open and honest dialogue.
People need to feel comfortable voicing their concerns without fear of judgment or reprisal.
So it's about building trust and fostering a culture of transparency and respect.
Absolutely.
Active listening is also crucial.
When someone raises a concern
Really take the time to understand their perspective.
and the underlying reasons for their concern.
It's about seeking to understand before seeking to be understood.
Exactly.
And once you've truly heard and understood the concern,
Then you can start to explore potential solutions together.
this all sounds very collaborative,
It's like you're saying that ethical AI development isn't a solo mission.
but a team effort that requires everyone to work together.
That's exactly right.
Business analysts have a unique role to play in facilitating these conversations.
And guiding the team towards a shared understanding of what it means to use AI responsibly and ethically.
Okay, so we've talked about the importance of stakeholder engagement and communication.
But let's say we've done all that.
We've got a solid foundation of ethical principles.
We've engaged with all the key stakeholders.
And we're ready to start building our AI system.
What are some of the practical steps involved in actually building ethical AI systems?
The study notes lay out a really comprehensive roadmap.
Breaking it down into 5 key stages.
Okay.
Incorporating ethics into requirements gathering.
Applying ethical design principles.
Ensuring model development oversight.
Conducting thorough testing and validation.
And diligently documenting decisions.
Okay, so it's a systematic approach that covers the entire AI development lifecycle.
Let's start with requirements gathering.
How do we ensure that ethical considerations are baked in from the very beginning?
This is where those ethical user stories we talked about earlier come in.
By explicitly including ethical considerations in the user stories.
We're setting the stage for an AI system that is designed with those principles in mind.
So it's not just about what the system needs to do,
but also about how it should do it.
It's about building those ethical guardrails right into the blueprint.
Exactly.
And it's not just about the user stories themselves.
It's about having open and honest conversations with stakeholders about their values and expectations around ethical AI.
So it's about creating a shared understanding of what ethical AI means in the context of the specific project.
Right.
And that understanding should inform every stage of the development process.
From the initial design to the final deployment.
Okay, so we've gathered our requirements.
We've got our ethical user stories in place.
Now we're moving into the design phase.
What are some of the key ethical design principles we should be thinking about?
One important principle is privacy by design.
This means that privacy considerations are integrated into the very architecture of the AI system.
Rather than being treated as an afterthought.
So it's about building in privacy protections from the ground up.
Exactly.
And it's not just about protecting personal data.
But also about respecting people's autonomy and control over their information.
What are some practical examples of how privacy by design might be implemented in an AI system?
One example is data minimization.
This means that the AI system should only collect and use the data that is absolutely necessary for its intended purpose.
So it's about being mindful of the data we're collecting and making sure we're not overstepping boundaries.
Right.
Another example is transparency.
The AI system should be designed in a way that allows users to understand what data is being collected.
How it's being used.
And for what purpose.
So it's about giving users visibility and control over their data.
What about other ethical design principles?
You mentioned fairness earlier.
How do we ensure that AI systems are designed to be fair and unbiased?
Fairness by design is another key principle.
This means that the AI system should be designed to treat all users equitably.
Regardless of their background or characteristics.
That sounds simple enough.
But I imagine it's a lot harder to achieve in practice.
How do we actually build fairness into an AI system?
It starts with the data.
We need to ensure that the data we're using to train the AI system is representative of the population it will be used on.
And that it doesn't contain biases that could lead to unfair outcomes.
So it's back to that idea of garbage in, garbage out.
If we train our AI system on biased data,
we're likely to get biased results.
Exactly.
And it's not just about the data itself.
It's also about the algorithms we use to process that data.
So we need to be aware of the potential biases that can be embedded in algorithms.
And take steps to mitigate those biases.
Right.
And this is where collaboration between business analysts,
data scientists,
and ethicists becomes so important.
We need to work together to identify potential biases.
Test for them.
And make adjustments to the algorithms as needed.
Okay, so we've designed our AI system with privacy and fairness in mind.
Now we're moving into the development phase.
What role does model development oversight play in ensuring ethical AI?
Model development oversight is all about monitoring the development process.
To ensure that ethical considerations are being taken into account at every stage.
So it's like having an ethical watchdog on the team.
You could say that.
It's about having a system of checks and balances in place.
To make sure that the AI system is being developed in a responsible and ethical way.
What are some specific things that might be involved in model development oversight?
One important aspect is bias detection and mitigation.
We need to regularly test the AI system for biases.
And take steps to mitigate those biases as needed.
So it's an iterative process, constantly monitoring and adjusting as we go.
Exactly.
It's also about ensuring that the AI system is explainable.
We need to be able to understand how the AI system is making decisions.
And be able to explain those decisions to stakeholders.
That makes sense.
If we can't understand how the AI system is making decisions,
how can we be confident that those decisions are fair and ethical?
Exactly.
Explainability is crucial for building trust and ensuring accountability.
Okay, so we've developed our AI system.
We've monitored the development process.
Now it's time for testing and validation.
How do we ensure that our AI system is not only functioning correctly,
but also behaving ethically?
This is where we put the AI system through its paces.
Not just to ensure it's meeting its technical specifications,
but also to evaluate its ethical performance.
What does that look like in practice?
We might develop specific test cases that are designed to assess the AI system's fairness
Bias.
and impact on different user groups,
We might also conduct user acceptance testing.
where we get feedback from real users about their experiences with the AI system,
So it's about getting a holistic view of the AI system's performance.
both from a technical and an ethical perspective.
Right.
And it's important to remember that testing and validation is an ongoing process.
As the AI system is used and exposed to new data.
We need to continue to monitor its performance and make adjustments as needed.
Okay, so we've covered requirements gathering,
Ethical design principles,
model development oversight.
and testing and validation.
The final stage in the roadmap is documentation.
Why is documentation so important in the context of ethical AI?
Documentation is crucial for transparency and accountability.
It allows us to track the decisions that were made throughout the development process
The rationale behind those decisions.
and the steps that were taken to mitigate potential ethical risks.
So it's like creating an ethical audit trail for the AI system.
Exactly.
This documentation can be invaluable if questions or concerns arise about the AI system's behavior,
It allows us to go back and understand how the system was developed
the ethical considerations that were taken into account.
and the steps that were taken to ensure responsible use.
This has been an incredibly insightful deep dive into the world of ethical AI,
We've covered a lot of ground.
from the high-level principles to the practical steps involved in building ethical AI systems.
Any final thoughts for our listeners before we wrap up?
The development and deployment of AI systems present us with both immense opportunities and significant challenges.
As business analysts, we have a crucial role to play in ensuring that AI is used for good
That it benefits individuals and society as a whole.
and that it reflects our shared values.
Well said.
It's a responsibility we should all take seriously.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into ethical AI.
We hope you found it informative and thought-provoking.
Until next time, keep diving deep.